Labour doesn't vote in the House of Lords to kill a bill. That's the Commons' job. The constitutional position is the unelected Lords is a revising chamber only. If a precedent was set, the Tories could easily use their majority in the Lords to do the same to a Labour government's laws. Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornberry setting out Labour's response to the fatal motion tabled by Baroness Jenny Jones to stop the government using an unprecedented abuse of power to restrict the public's right to protest. So let's break that down. Labour doesn't vote in the House of Lords to kill a bill. As Steve Pearce, a professor of EU and human rights law, was quick to point out, this isn't a bill, it's a statutory instrument that brings back restrictions on protest rights that Parliament rejected including in a bill. And that's the point. This isn't a bill, it's a statutory instrument that brings back restrictions on our right to protest that Parliament rejected including in a bill through the back door. As for this, that's the Commons' job. Labour can't stop this in the Commons. It doesn't have the majority to do that. The only place the opposition can actually stop the government using this unprecedented abuse of power to strip back our right to protest is in the Lords. The constitutional position is the unelected Lords is a revising chamber only. But as we've established, the objection is not to a bill but to a statutory instrument, and the Lords can reject secondary legislation, which is what this is. Lord Reynard was quick to agree. The Parliament Act of 1949, passed under Attlee's Labour government, gives the House of Lords the power to delay legislation for a year, and the review of its powers for secondary legislation confirmed that it can say no to them. And remember, the other fundamental point is that this is an unprecedented abuse of power by the government. It's the first time ever the government is using secondary legislation to overturn a parliamentary vote. It's not only unprecedented, it's undemocratic, and it's being used to further the government's agenda of restricting the public's right to protest by defining serious disruption as anything more than minor. Just think about that, and don't be fooled by the government's line that this is about groups like Just Stop Oil. This law will affect every single one of us. It will affect any protest by anyone which is anything more than minor. It could include a small group of pensioners demonstrating outside their local council offices. This outrageous assault on our liberties was rejected by the Lords in a vote. Remember, we're a parliamentary democracy, and if the government strongly wishes to put this forward, they should table fresh legislation, not try and sneak it in via the back door, which is what this is. If a precedent was set, the Tories could easily use their majority in the Lords to do the same to a Labour government's laws. Well, hang on. The Tories don't have a majority in the Lords. Don't just take my word for it. Here's the Energy Secretary Grant Shapps speaking to the BBC's Laura Kuenssberg earlier today.
Actually, it will surprise your viewers, given what you've just said to me, that after a series of general election wins over many years and 56% Conservative MPs in the Commons, in the House of Lords, we only have about a third Conservative. So even after all these years, we don't have a majority in the House of Lords.
And as for this, if a precedent was set, if Labour doesn't back the fatal motion in the Lords on Tuesday, they will have supported Sunak's government in both restricting our right to protest and in establishing a precedent whereby a government can lose votes in Parliament when trying to pass legislation, then simply have the same laws waved through as regulations. They will have assisted the government in undermining our whole system of parliamentary democracy and allow government by diktat. Now, it seems at the moment Labour will be forcing a three-line whip for its motion of regret on Tuesday, while telling peers to abstain on the fatal motion tabled by Baroness Jenny Jones. But Labour's motion of regret is like bringing a feather duster to a knife fight. It will do absolutely nothing to stop this. The only way Labour can stop this government restricting our right to protest and using an unprecedented abuse of power to get away with it is to back the fatal motion on Tuesday.